Okay. Am I audible to all of you? Yes, can you hear me or not? Are you all connected? Can you hear or not? Um, Kaushal Ranjan.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Are you here?
Yes, ma'am.
So, are other people also able to hear? I've asked at least three times now if you're able to hear me.
You are audible.
Yeah. Then it would be nice if you can confirm when at least these basic questions are asked for every one of you. Okay. Thank you. Um, Okay, so we begin our discussion on prepositions. The last class we were looking at adjectives and adverbs. I hope those topics are clear for you. Of course, it might require a little practice, particularly with the kind of words that are used both as adverbs and adjectives, right? So we did have some discussion on that in the last class. But I would wish to now talk about the next very important constituent in languages, which are called prepositions, right? Now, prepositions, they're also descriptive words, right? Just like your adjectives, they also can be considered as descriptive words because most of these prepositions, they give you some idea of the location, direction, position of nouns or pronouns, right? So they are also linked to nouns and pronouns, just like the case of adjectives. But in function, they are a little different, right? So when I call them descriptive words, I call them descriptive not because they directly tell you something about the noun or pronoun associated, right? Does not add a direct description to it. However, the major role of preposition is to tell you about um, all of these things that I mentioned, that is position or direction or place or time in relation to two things, right? So it shows you mostly the relation between two nouns or pronouns in a sentence. So while it very specifically describes the relation. How is a certain noun or a pronoun in relation to something? So where is a noun or a pronoun located in relation to a different noun or a pronoun? Or where a noun or a pronoun is positioned with respect to or in relation to another noun or a pronoun. What is the direction of a certain noun or a pronoun in relation to another noun or pronoun, right? So keep this phrase in mind, in relation to, right? In relation to is a very important part when you learn about prepositions because if you look at it superficially, even they work very similar to adjectives as descriptive words, telling you something about the location, place, time, so on and so forth of a noun or a pronoun, right? But what makes it different is this phrase, in relation to. So there are, they need to specify the relation between two nouns or instead of saying two nouns, let's say a noun or a pronoun with respect to another noun or pronoun, right? So this is the basic difference. Now, two things before we start looking at the questions. One of the major point, which is not grammatical, right? So what I'm going to tell you is not anything that's related to grammar. We know that as you learn a language, there are grammatical components to a language, and there is also something that you call as communicative components, right? And communicative components are something that are linguistic in nature. They have language elements in them, but they're not strictly based on any rule. Okay, so just like grammar forms the rule of a language, to how to place things together, how to structure various constituents in a sentence, so on and so forth. However, when I say communicative components, what I'm referring to is certain conventions that are followed in a language that may or may not be, nourished with the knowledge of grammar. So grammar may not be a major component of what we call as communicative component. And one such component is collocation, right? One such phenomena that you see, which is not strictly based on grammatical rules, is called collocations. I'm not sure if you have already reached that module where collocations are discussed, but um, I'll let you know what this means, right? So collocations, because they are going to be useful for you even in the exams. You will have certain, if you've already looked at the previous question papers, you will see that there are certain questions which are based on a match the following kind of exercise, right? Where your task is to link two words together. Sometimes the connections between them are very obvious. Sometimes the connections are a little off, right? Off in the sense they expect you to know the pair as a collocative pair. What does this collocation mean? Collocation in any language means the relation between the close relation between a pair of words, two words in a language, based on their co-occurrence, right? Co-occurrence means these words always they appear together, right? In the sense that when you have one of them in the site, you can almost guess the second one along with it, right? So to give you an example, say something like, uh, I'll give you a random example at this point. I'm not going to bother you with um, you know any other kind of examples, but something that is more common, right? So look at an example like you know profusely bleeding. I'll leave it out in the chat for you so that it's easy for you to understand what I'm saying. Look at this phrase, profuse bleeding. Okay, have you come across this uh, particular phrase anywhere? People who read, maybe even if it is, say news report or something, have you come across this?
Yes,
Profusely bleeding.
ma'am.
Huh? Yeah. So see, this is a kind of collocative pair where you have a combination between an adverb and an adjective, right? So here profusely is your adverb and bleeding is your adjective. So the combination, lexical combination. So we also call them lexical collocations because you have two word classes coming together to form this. Now, why is this called a collocation? Because whenever you have the word bleeding, right, and you indicate it in such a way that someone was bleeding way too much to show that the bleeding was quite heavy, right? The way you put it in English language is profusely bleeding. Okay, there's another usage as well. You said profusely sweating also. But more importantly, the phrase profusely bleeding is used in order to show that the bleeding has been, say, unstoppable or it has been too heavy, right? The meanings would be along that line. But this combination of profusely bleeding is something that co-occurs very frequently in English language, such that every time you have to say that someone has been bleeding too much, a person who is a confident user of English language would say that someone was profusely bleeding, right? So the pair of these words, profusely and bleeding, they co-occur very frequently. Every time there is this situation at your hand, you hear a native speaker or a person who's proficient in English using the phrase profusely bleeding, right? Which is why it is called a collocation, right? Any random combination between two words cannot be considered a collocation, right? For something to be considered a collocation, it has to appear frequently together. Okay, you understand this concept? Any clarification that you need on this one?
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
anybody else? Any question? If you understand the concept of collocation, it's fine. It's not very difficult to understand. But the problem is if you're not a person who is an avid reader. Okay, this is again a collocation, which means if you're not somebody who reads very well, right, who reads on a daily basis or is accustomed to the process of reading in English, collocations are a little difficult area of your understanding. It's a bit advanced skill English, right? Someone who's more exposed to the language would be able to identify a collocation far more easily than someone who just looks at it for the sake of studying or anything else, right? But do you understand the concept is my question, right? The concept that something is called a collocation when they co-occur together and very frequently, such that every time you have to use the word bleeding to mean that someone is heavily bleeding or a bleeding that is not easily stoppable, you say profusely bleeding, right? So that kind of usage of the word, okay, frequently together with each other is called collocation. Now, you have seen an example of lexical collocation here, right? Wherein there was a combination between an adverb and an adjective. Okay, the one that I gave you, this is an adverb plus adjective combination. There are other kind of combinations also in the language. Like, for example, you have the adjective, sorry, you have the noun plus preposition combination, right? You also have the verb plus preposition combination, right? So most often what you see is a verb plus preposition or a noun plus preposition combination. For example, look at an example like this. Differentiate. What follows differentiate? What is the word that you'll use after differentiate? What is it that you popularly know? Differentiate?
Between.
Differentiate
Between.
between, right? Differentiate between. Then let me take another example. Something like, I think I'll use this
Integrate.
example. Integrate between, that I do not know. I'm only
Integrate with.
integrate with, yeah, okay. Integrate with is a good example. How about capable? The word capable. What
Capable
follows
of.
capable? Capable of, right? Let's take one more example so that it's clear with you. So you said integrate, right? So let's say integrate. So integrate is integrate with. Similarly, if I have another word, agree. Agree,
Agree with.
agree with, or sometimes you also say agree upon, right? These are some of the examples. So now, what are these? These combinations are called grammatical collocations, right? These are called grammatical collocations because now we are not dealing with just lexical categories like adverbs or adjectives. We are dealing with also grammatical categories here, right? You have, of course, you have adjectives and nouns plus the prepositions, but this is more like they're serving more like a grammatical function here. Every time you have a preposition has a very clear grammatical function, right? It's a part of what you call as the functional category. It's not something that belongs to the lexical category. What is the difference between lexical functional category? Right here. Lexical categories are words like, words which belong to the class of nouns or adjectives or adverbs or verbs, right? Which means they're open category. You can add more words to them. More nouns can be added to the set of nouns. More verbs can be added to the set of verbs or adjectives or adverbs. But functional categories, they only exist for, forwarding the grammatical functions. Examples include conjunctions, prepositions, right? These are closed category. You cannot invent new prepositions or add more conjunctions and prepositions to the existing category. They are fixed in nature. You cannot add new words, right? So every time you have a functional word in a combination, usually it is grammatical in function. So we call them grammatical collocation. Okay, any question here? This is not directly related to anything that you have to study, but I think this clarity is required for you to understand why certain, grammatical features behave a certain way, right? They look grammatical, but then they have got a little less to do with grammar than, communicative concepts. Is this clear? This much is clear? Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if I understand this, profusely bleeding is one of those collocations which you can call lexical because it is adverb plus adjective in some
Correct.
sense.
Correct.
And then you have the others in below, which we came up
Mm.
with. Differentiate between. The between
Mm.
is some sort of conjunction or maybe a preposition depending on
Preposition.
use. Preposition. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one we will call a functional collocation. Nothing can be done
Or
about it.
more importantly, grammatical collocations, because their use is more restricted to grammatical use. Okay.
So I
Alright.
think it will be very difficult to replace between with anything in this case.
Sorry.
It will be very difficult for us to use any word other than between over here.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. So it's tough for you, or it is grammatically considered wrong to replace anything with to replace, say, incapable of to replace of with anything else, or indifferentiate between to replace between with anything else. Okay, unless the context, of course, lets you permits you to do that. Okay, that's right. Okay, so if that much is understood, then there's one more thing that I need to talk about when we talk about the word collocation, right? So people could always ask the question why, right? So particularly when I say that, okay, nothing other than off or nothing other than with is permitted with capable or integrate respectively, a natural question, a very curious question would be why not, right? Why not can I do that? Now there's no answer, there's no grammatical response that I can give to it, right? So when you look at a grammar or a grammatical segment, which also follows a communicative function or also follows conventional language use strategies, it's tough for anybody to tell you why you cannot use a different word. How does it grammatically become wrong? For example, if I replace off with for, right? So I cannot explain that to you grammatically, which is where the point comes that in the language, any language, right, where whatever language you are learning, there are certain pockets which only follow communicative functions. It does not care too much about the grammatical units at that point, but there are lot many things in languages which also function through, or which also are rolled out through pure conventions, right? So if you ask me a question, my response would be, well, that's how it is conventionally used. That's how the corpora tells us. Corpora is basically the data, right? The language data from the language users, right? So the corpora tells me that this is a conventional use that I see among people who are considered the legitimate speakers of that language, right? So this is called conventional use, which may not be, which is not something that might have been directed from a grammar rule, but something that rests upon conventional use of the speakers of that language. So collocation also has this property, right? A lot many collocations are used, or they are considered correct to be used in a certain way just by the fact that they're used by the speakers of that language in that particular way. Okay, so that's the idea behind this. So given that, you will also see that in lexical collocations. In the case of lexical collocations, you'll also see that in the case of grammatical collocations, right? This one part I wanted you to keep in mind, because we're all trying to learn a language in a new perspective, right? We know English, but we're trying to also see um, how you can make it better, how this learning process can be made better. So it's always necessary that we acknowledge this part, that not everything in the language, not every single thing that you're going to learn would be grammatically explained. Some of it is also based on conventional use of the language among its speakers. Is that part clear? Okay. This is nothing for you to understand or anything. This is just to your knowledge that, this is also something that you need to understand while you learn a language, right? And this is common to every language. It's not just about English. Anything that you learn, try and learn as a second language or even as a foreign language, that there are going to be some of these segments which you will have to learn as it is without questioning, right? Why is it so? Okay. But because all of these languages will have some of these topics which are learned convention, okay, or which are learned based on the conventions. Okay, so if that part is understood, I think, well, this is not directly connected to the questions that we want to do. Questions are questions; they're just plain worksheet. But these are some of the information which we wish to pass on to you as you make an effort to learn the English language. Okay, because I'm sure there are going to be these crossroads where you pause and you think that, okay, well, why is it so and why is it not explainable? Some of it are explainable. People are making an effort to explain it grammatically, but in cases where grammar fails to explain, it's mostly also because there's an entanglement of convention here, which is difficult to be explained using the grammar. Okay. I hope that point is clear. If there are people who haven't understood, please stop me and tell me I do not understand what you're saying, or I need further explanation on that. If not, we can get back to our good old worksheet and try and see if we can understand some of them, right? So the premise that I also mentioned these things is because some of you are going to face a little bit of difficulty in the first 10 or 20 questions, because you would be asking this question, about why cannot it be the other option. So most of the times the answer to why it cannot be the other option is actually this, because it is collocative. The usage is collocative, hence you have to use it that way. That is also the premise in which I gave you this explanation. Okay, so it's not like entirely out of context also. Okay, so anything? Can we go ahead and answer these questions here?
So in some sense, water is wet. Why it is wet? There is no answer. Basically that.
Water is wet.
Right. If somebody asks why is water wet, then you have to tell them it's wet. Just deal with it. Pretty much like that, right? The collocation situation.
Not really, not really. See, so water is wet. If someone says that water has properties of something or it can wet something, this is more like more like an inherent characteristic of anything that comes in contact with water. Okay. Or a very tangible consequence of anything that comes in contact with water. But here you're not able, that kind of explanation is also not possible. It's not a logical explanation is not possible in case of collocation. It's because, this is how it is used. That's all. So if someone tells me instead of profusely bleeding, can I not use a word like, how do I replace profusely? Can I not say, something like, let's say, abundantly bleeding, okay, or generously bleeding, or amply bleeding? The point is, I don't know. Is it wrong? I don't know. Is it a nasty way to put it? Well, in some sense, semantically, it is wrong, because when you say abundantly bleeding, you're making it look like, this is like a good thing to happen. Or when you say, overflowingly bleeding, again, this doesn't look like something that fits the meaning well. But besides that, I cannot say that this is grammatically a wrong usage. I cannot say it is a grammatically wrong usage, or by which I mean grammar of the language cannot explain why it is wrong. Only the conventions and the communicative sensories of people who speak that language can tell you that this is wrong. Something sounds off here. We do not speak like this. No, you might have heard people saying that, oh, we don't talk like this. So this is what they're referring to. This means that this is not a practice, language practice that we accept. Okay. So it's more about acceptance. There's a word in literature, in linguistics, it's called acceptability. So grammaticality and acceptability works together. Okay, something that is removed in acceptability and is okay in grammar is not how actual speech of people look. Okay, you can of course come up with syntax with the grammar alone. You can come up with a lot many sentences, but those sentences or those utterances may not find. It may not be ratified or vetted in the community. The community will not say that, this is fine, this is a good sentence, right? So a good sentence grammatically and a good sentence communicatively are two different things. A good sentence communicatively should also have acceptability within the speech community that it is used. Okay, is that clear?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, all right. Okay. Okay, let's look at the questions. I do not know if others have a question or others are ready to even think along that line. I know most of you are like, just let's get done with the worksheet, but some of these things are important so that your learning becomes a little more meaningful than just fill in the blanks. Okay, so the first one, could you help me understand this one? The first one, I'd rather study and pass dash repeat the course instead than besides.
Than.
To study and pass than repeat the course. Yes, fine. That's right. Anybody with any other answers? Than is the right answer though. Okay, than repeat the course, right? Talking on phone while driving is dash the law. Beyond, despite, against. While driving is against the law, right?
Against, ma'am.
Yeah, against the law. Then you will receive your parcel within, during, inside 10 days.
Within.
Within 10 days. So some of the options that you see, they're also put along with the actual answers because many people, these are errors that you see in particularly Indian English, right? A lot of people have a tendency to use the word inside and during and all as they write sentences. So those options are not been provided for no use. It's also to highlight that these are some of the common mistakes you see in the Indian English, right? So here the answer has to be within 10 days. Okay. Then comes the fourth one. In this case, you clearly dash a disadvantage at in with.
At,
You are clearly
At
is it at or
at, right? At. Huh. Sorry, Varshini.
yeah, ma'am,
What
I
did you
just
ask?
told at nothing, ma'am.
Huh. Yeah, the answer has to be at. A lot of people again with and in, actually more commonly than with, is seen in writings that we value. So you are clearly at disadvantage. And if I remove the prefix, even then it is at. Okay, so it is at a disadvantage, at an advantage. Okay, an advantage because of the change in the uh, sound to a vowel sound, right? At a disadvantage, at an advantage. Fifth one, this book dash PJ Wodehouse is full of wit and humor of where and
By
by somebody, right? Book by somebody, so it has to be by. Then my parents lived in the same city dash ages for over 6. So
since
you need to distinguish between the use of for and since. Okay, both give you the same kind of meaning, but then their use has to be based on what helps you talk about exact time and what tells you about something that's a non-specific time period. Both are used to talk about time period, but one used for specific time period, one for non-specific. So here is the time period given specific or non-specific in 6th sentence. Lived in the same city dash ages.
non-specific.
Non-specific. So what do you use for non-specific? For. Okay, for is the
for
answer. If your time period being specified, time period given is not specific in nature, then for. If it is specific, for example, if it said lived in the city dash 5 years, then you say since 5 years. But here, since there's nothing specifically given, you use for to show indicate the period of time. Right. Right. Seventh one. The singer is French. I was dash the impression that she's Dutch.
under
I was at the impression, under the impression. Why don't you not use the off here? Can I say off the impression? Isn't it a common usage? At least I have seen a lot of people saying I was off the impression. So which one do you think is right, or
like
do you think both are correct?
ma'am, like in spoken language, I think off is most commonly
Ah,
used, but
okay. Hmm.
I feel under is
Yeah, you're right, actually. You're right. It is catching up because of what you refer to as the internet language. A lot of people have started wrongly using it on the internet, and it has gained popularity. Sometimes that happens, right? Wrong usage gains popularity, and then it gets normalized to say something that way. So, well, in the informal context, maybe of impression is okay because it has gained some traction by use. But when you're writing it, right, like I told you, I think in the previous session as well, formal English is stricter, right? Or what you call as written English. It's stricter and it follows a certain standard. And by that, the only grammatical option is under the impression. You don't say off. I was off the impression that she's Dutch. I was under the impression that she's Dutch. Okay. And this problem of off and under also arises between speakers of English who have learned it as a second language because, again, collocative usage. This is again a collocative usage. So someone I won't use the word legitimate because it's a little loaded. I would say someone uh, who who uses English or speaks English because the person lives in a country that predominantly uses the language, they would call this wrong because they know that this is not the convention. This is not their language practice. But for us, most of us most of the world who have learned English as a second language, maybe of the impression is something for them, it's okay. They're like, okay, it gives me the meaning, so it's fine. So it's fine. I'm not saying not fine, but only in informal context, right? Where you are understood, your meaning is understood. Written English, like I told, is stricter. It will go only by the standard grammatical practice, right? That is a contested area. Well, anyway, for learners of English, for our course, it's beyond our scope to debate on whether that should be the right way. So please learn it as under the impression, not off the impression. Okay. Eighth one. The train should have reached your dash now until about by.
By enough.
By now, right? By now, something that indicates the end limit of the time period. Then we've put a lot of effort dash this work. Yeah, this is also one of my favorite questions. In into for. What is the natural choice? What should be the natural choice? We've put a lot of effort in this work, into this work. For is definitely a bad candidate. We're not going to look at it. But among in and into, between the choice of in and into, what do you choose? We've put a lot of effort in this work. Is this a sentence that you use commonly with your friends as you speak? I put a lot of effort in this work. Do you say this?
Yes, ma'am. Like we
Yeah,
often use
you
in
do use it, right? It is in use. It is in use. Again, the answer is, well, informally, this is again something that people have picked up, right, in this work. But formal English, into this work. I have put a lot of effort into this work. You put effort into something. You don't put an effort in something, right? So, in again, this is a usage that has caught up because of internet usage, because internet doesn't usually give too much importance to what is right and wrong. It just says what it wants to. So because of that reason, this has gained some traction. But again, remember, formal English, into this work. We've put a lot of effort into this work. Okay. 10th one, my friend and I drove dash the coastline of Chennai through onto along coastline. So
along.
do you drive through it? Along, right? You can only drive along the coastline. You cannot drive through it, right? Because it's something that's going to run parallelly as you drive. So all these examples from 1 to 10, these are also examples of what we discussed as grammatical collocations, right? So when someone asks you, why not this, why not that? There couldn't be a grammatical explanation to it, but the only answer is that, well, by the conventional practice of the speech community, this is how it is supposed to, right? So keep that in mind. We have discussed only a few prepositions, and I mean, by which I mean, you had three options in each of those sentences, right? So we haven't seen sentences which can be used with them. They are all examples of grammatical collocations. But my point is only, of course, you cannot use the session to discuss every other possible preposition available in English language. I take a set of them to show you how this functions in a language and leave it up to you to practice on the rest. Okay. So that is the story of the first 10 prepositions. Now we are going to talk about a bunch of prepositions, not a bunch of them, actually a few of them. The most commonly used ones in English language, right? Which are in, on, and at. These three prepositions, they're the most commonly used prepositions in the English language. But they're not that easy also. They have their own functions, they have their own idiosyncrasies, if I may call them. And we're going to discuss that as we look at the questions here, right? I kept them for a later time because again, they have issues. Like people would say, do not use on with street, always use in with street. Now we do not know. People could always contest it asking, why cannot it be on the street? But Again, this is a place where we are going to utilize a lot of conventional use of preposition, right? Than, having any grammatical reason to that. Let's look at them one by one. And as we look at the questions, please make a note where and when and why we use in, on, or at. Okay, the reasons we'll discuss individually. Let's take them up a little quickly. I think there are at least some 20, 30 odd questions. Let's try and finish them up as early as possible. Okay, so be careful. There is ice dash the roads today. The roads. I have
On
boldened all those words to show you when and where you're using on it. On the roads. Now, why on the roads?
ma'am, because
This
it
is
is
what?
above
Location, time,
the
space.
road,
What?
like
Okay, before you come to that, this is what? Preposition of time, place, location, direction. What is this? Location, right? This is a
place.
preposition. Place, yeah, place, location, anything. So again, you use on, in, and at to show prepositions of place, prepositions of time, prepositions of direction. These three words can be used to indicate all the three, right? Position, place, time. And in this case, we are using it to show the preposition of place. So on, in, and at, anything can be used. But here we use on because when you talk about anything, the relation of something, something in the sense a noun or a pronoun to another, with respect to its position being on the surface level of something, you use on, right? So road is a surface. Anything when is spoken about in relation to that, it has to be, we were talking like you said on above the road, right? So the right word to use is surface level. If you're able to locate something on the surface level, then usually the preposition that you use is on. So eyes is on the roads, but not in the road or at the roads, on the road, surface levels. How about the next one? This is a direction, preposition of direction, the south of Poland. Krakow is so situated dash the south of Poland. In, on, at, right? So from 11 to 40, we are only going to use in, on, at, not any other preposition. If that is the case, what would you use? In, at, or on?
At.
At the south of Poland. Okay. Why do you use that?
Because it is at
So let's look at it this way. Let's look at it this way. How do you say it? The sun rises at the east? Do you? How do you say that?
we say in the
Sorry. Yeah, I think your voice broke. I did not hear you well.
and we say sun is rising in the east.
Sun rises in the east, right? So this is one way of showing the direction when referring to you can use in when this is the most natural actually when you're referring to a region or area within a country, right? Sorry, direction, that is in the east. But here in this case we are talking about the location. We're not in sun rises in the east, we are not talking about sun's location. Okay, but in this situation we are talking about the location of that country. So can I say Krakow is situated in the south of Poland? Will that be right when referring to a region or area within a country? In the south of Poland? It's right, right? You don't have to think too much. It's okay. I can say in the south of Poland. Some particular place, a city is located in the south of a country, right? That's a right usage. What I can also say is on the south. Can I say that? Replace it with on. Can I say on the south of Poland? Krakow is situated on the south of Poland. Is that right?
No, ma'am. I think in only is the correct thing.
We cannot. We cannot. So why are we not doing that? Why is it wrong?
And because it's not on the surface of Poland or something like that.
Exactly. Exactly. So we are not referring to say a surface or we are not referring to a coast. If we replace it, if we are talking about a coast, then it makes sense, right? Or if you're talking about a border, then it makes sense. Okay. But not here. Here we are locating it regionally. It's a space, so you cannot really say on. You have to say in. Anything that has got to do with space or enclosed spaces that needs to take in, right? So Krakow is situated in the south of Poland. People might be tempted to use on, but on is wrong for the reason that this has got no surface relevance. On is used only when you can show surface, right? Like a border or a coast or something. Okay. Then 13th, do come in,
If
don't.
the option was
Yeah.
there, I would be tempted
Ah.
to use 2 also over there.
To the south of Poland. To the south of Poland is fine. It's situated to the south of Poland. But to is a different kind of a preposition. Okay. It's a preposition of direction, but not a common one as in on, in, and at. Yeah, if you have the option, yes, you can use. That's not wrong. Not wrong to say to the south. 13th one, is it? Do come in. Don't stand dash the cold. So in, on, at.
In the cold.
In the cold. Again, you're talking about an area that encompasses and is cold in nature. So in the cold, right? 14. Do you know those people sitting dash the grass? Do you know those people sitting dash the grass? Again,
On
grass is what? It is the surface. So on the grass, yes, correct. Do you mean the one dash the left? Yeah, this is also a good question. Do you mean the one dash left?
On the left.
On the left. That's a natural choice, right? But can I say in the left? Is there a situation where I can say in the left? Here it is right? Do you mean the one on the left? What meaning does it give you? Position, right? Position, side, or direction, whatever. But are there situations where I can use in the left?
When anything under the circumstances.
When you're talking to a part or a specific enclosed space, right? For example, I can say that there's a pen in the left corner of the table, right? So in that sense I can use it, but not here where I'm trying to show what is this? I'm trying to show position or side or direction, right? So do you mean the one on the left, right? Okay. Do you still work? This is 16th one. Do you still work dash the post office? This may have multiple
at
answers. Do you still work? Yeah. Do you still work at the post office? Right. Do you still work at the post office is the natural answer to this. But any other answers possible?
in
In.
In. Okay. So how does the meaning change if I use in instead of at?
when the person
At
is
depicts the
working there.
place.
Hmm. That refers to what? What does at refer to? If I use at, then what is the meaning?
Place, ma'am.
Place, as in location, right?
Yes,
You're
yes.
trying to refer to somebody, the location or a certain, say, even an organization where a person works. But if I change it to in the post office, what happens to it? Do you still work
Inside.
in the post office means? Inside,
Inside.
He's
right?
working
Place, again.
Inside. Yeah.
on
Yeah, when you say in, you're referring to the insides of that particular building, right? Post office. So,
Yeah.
do you still work in the post office? Do you still work at the post office, right? Another meaning is when I say, do you still work at the post office? I'm also referring to the fact that this person has a job at the post office. But when I say in the post office, it's not necessary that you're part of the post office. You probably are doing something else also inside, right? Which is why when you're introducing yourself, right, this is a major problem as people give self introduction. I study, or I work at, instead of work at so and so organization, people say I work in so and so place. So you must, if you're referring it to, if you're referring, making that sentence as a reference to the place where you're employed at or the place where you study, then the right choice of preposition is at. I work at, not I work in. Okay. So that is also, this meaning needs to be conveyed. Well, then 17th, don't keep this medicine dash the sun. Of course, in the sun, right?
In the sun.
Sun.
In the sun. Yeah. I do not like this picture dash the wall. This is also quite easy.
On the
On the
wall.
wall.
On the wall. On the wall. Yeah. 19th, I met Stephen dash the station. This also can have multiple answers. I met Stephen dash the station. Yeah.
At the
At the
state.
station. Ah, at the station is the natural choice. And what other answers can you
On.
hear? On the
In.
station. No, not on the station, but in the station, right? I met
In.
Stephen at the station, that you met the person somewhere at the premise of the station. When you say in the station, you met the person literally inside the station, right? Maybe somewhere on the platform or somewhere at the ticket counter, right? At the station would mean that it's not necessarily inside the space of the station, could be somewhere in the premise of the station, right? At the somewhere near the station, right? Okay. Then 20th one, let's have a ride dash horseback. That's also easy.
On.
On horseback. Yeah? On horseback. Look, 21st, look, there is an airplane dash the sky.
In
In
the
the
sky.
sky.
In the
In
sky.
the sky.
In the sky is a enclosed space. Sky is an enclosed space in the sky. So another question. The Okay, I think we have that question coming up. I'll discuss it then. 22nd one, Mount Everest is the highest mountain. Okay, some of them are answered. We go to 24. Okay. In the world, again, this was a question which is world, here again, when I say things like cold or sun or world, one should understand that we are referring to a region that it encapsulates, right? So, which is why all of them will take the preposition in and not anything else, right? Anything that has a spatial connotation, something that can be referred to as a space, which can give you a meaning of a space, will definitely take the preposition in, which is why world takes in. Shall we meet at the concert? Do you think you can use any other preposition here? 23.
In.
In.
Okay.
In.
We use it, then what does it mean?
Inside and hall. For the
Okay.
concert.
Inside a. Okay. So that's the question. Is the concert a space? Hall is a space, yes. But how about the concert? Is that a space?
Concert is happening on the hall. In the hall.
Concert is happening in the hall. It can even happen in an open air theater. That's not a problem. Okay. The question is that whether the given word concert is a space. Is that is it
No,
something that
it's not.
occupies?
It's not a
No, it's
space.
not. It's not a space. So you cannot use, some people will have a tendency to say, shall we meet in the concert? Here in does not work because concert is not something that can take up space. Only the space where the concert is held is the space. Right? Concert by itself is not a space. Okay. So because it doesn't have that spatial connotation, you cannot use the preposition in along with it, right? So it's always shall we meet at the concert, not in the concert. Okay. 24th, the bird sitting in that tree is one of the rarest dash this region. This is easy. It directly says
In.
region. In this
In
region.
this.
Yeah. 25th, the burdens are dash the country today.
At.
Easy, this is.
In the country.
Why at? In the country. Because the country, again, it has a spatial connotation, right? The meaning is spatial. Where are they? They are in the country today, right? Okay, so 26, the house dash the corner is mine. Yeah, this is also a good question. The house dash the corner is mine.
At the corner.
Okay. Why not in or on? Can they also be the answers? Can I say the
Why not?
house in the corner is mine? Can I say the house on the corner is mine?
It cannot
on-
be in
Actually,
because it's
what
not.
will be the natural expression? What do you think is the natural expression? To say at the corner, in the corner, or on the corner? Let's put it in a different way. Let's say the the broom is kept dash the corner of the room, in, on, at.
At.
That's your natural choice. Okay, let's say at. Now this problem happens because in some cases all the three go. The natural choice, however, is on. When you say corner, it has to be on the corner. Okay, not at the corner, on the corner. You can say the house on the corner is mine, or the broom is kept on the corner of the room, so on and so forth. Right? A shop on the corner sells flowers, anything. Right? It is because this particular thing that we're talking about, right? In this case, the house, it sits on the street corner, right? It's sitting on the street corner. Haven't you seen? I don't think in our place it's not very common, but if you see those European streets, there are these shops and houses that are located right on the corner. They sit on the corner of the two dividing roads, right? Where the roads bifurcate. That kind of setup is not very common in India because, well, our planning is not that great. Uh, but if you've seen, that actually happens, right? The houses, they can sit right on the corner of the place. In our place, maybe more commons are shops because we do not have enough space in corners to have a house. But there are many shops which we see that sit on the corner of a particular road or a particular street, right? So on the corner is something that's natural. But again, saying in or at is also not wrong. However, in the case of buildings, right, you probably are not allowed to use at or in. What are the situations where you can use in the corner? I'll give you two examples. So I can say, you say something like, how do I say, a lizard. I can see a lizard in the corner. Okay, so I saw a lizard in the corner of this. So that time, maybe you refer to you make this reference in such a way that you are making a reference to an animal. Right? So in such cases, using in the corner is okay. At the corner, well, let's say something like um, there's a woman. There's a woman standing at the corner of the road. It's a woman standing at the corner of the road. So this referring to the location of the objects in question, people in question. Right. In both these cases, you can use in or it, but the natural choice, please remember, is always on the corner. Okay? The house on the corner is okay. Let's move on to 27.
Excuse me,
Yeah, go ahead.
but the broom will be in the corner, right?
Broom.
No, broom. The sweeping broom. Broom will be
Okay.
in the corner of the room, right? Or not?
The broom is kept in the corner of. Yes. The broom is in the corner. Yes. Broom is in the corner. Yeah.
Or I can sit in the corner. That will also be okay.
You can sit in the corner. Yes. You can sit in the corner. Yes. That's right. Okay. Where are we? 27, right? The picture dash the top of page 33 shows a leaf of tobacco. This is also easy. Picture
At.
is no. How is the picture? How is the picture put on the page? It is surface, right? On the surface. So on the top of page 33 shows a leaf of tobacco. Picture on the top, right? Yes, the yachts are sailing. 20. The yachts are sailing. Dash the British waters now. So yachts are
On.
sailing. Yes, very good for that answer. Not because it's right, but it's good that you said on so that I can talk to you a bit about that. So see, look at that phrase there. It doesn't simply say waters. It says the British waters, right? So British waters is what? It's a specified region within that, right? It shows boundaries, shows territory, right? So anything that shows a region, a space, will have to use which preposition?
In.
In, right? So the yachts are sailing in the British waters. If I remove the British, right, I simply say waters, right? The yachts are sailing on the waters now, right? So when it's sans or without the boundary specification or the region specification, then you use on, right? But when there is a regional specification, it means you're talking about a space. Anything that has a spatial reference will have to take. So in the British waters. That's how you differentiate it. Okay, 29th one. Is that understood? Any questions on that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, now the 29th one, there are two boats dash the river.
On the river.
On the river. Can I say in the river?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I
I'm
say
common.
there are two boats in the river? No, think and answer. Think and answer. So the if you say in the river, the meaning is going to be quite different.
Yes, ma'am, because then it would become specified region.
Specified. No. The meaning is entirely different when I say that inside the, sorry, in the river. In the river means it's inside the water, which means you are trying to say that it is actually a boat that is drowning, right?
Yeah. Yes.
If that is the meaning that you're trying to give, then yes, in the water. But if you're trying to say that it is sailing on the water, then what do you say on the water? Right? There are two boats on the river, which means the boats are still sailing. When you say in the river, it means it's inside, drown, right? So
Yes.
if I have submarine instead of the boat, if I use submarine, then what do you say? The submarines are
In the river.
in the river, right? Or whatever, in the lake, in the sea. But boats, unless they are drowning, they're floating on the water, right? Things float on the water. So this distinction is important. Depending on the context, you must use them accordingly. 30th one, there are two sentences dash the blackboard. These are all easy. Sorry. There are two sentences dash the
Excuse
blackboard.
me.
Yes.
I'm not entirely comfortable with the 27th one, was it? With the at the top, on the top of page. Yeah.
On the top,
Uh,
because the picture is on the surface of the page, right? So top of the page.
But when we say the top of the page, are we not referring to, a region of the page? So at the top should work, will it not?
Not really. We're not saying region. You're only talking about the location where the picture is on the page, right? So locations are mostly, and especially if it is on a surface level, the answer is on. It is also, again, like I told you, there are some of these usages which are very predominantly used because of the social media craze these days. But the way they should be used must be like this. The when you draw the logic for this, it has to come like that. You're talking about something that is found or located on the surface of something, right? So that which is why we use on and not at, right? At is more specific. It's to show specific location, right? But here there's no question of specific location because already it's been said that it's the top of the page. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. 1 second.
We were at the 30th.
We were at the 30th. Yeah. So 30th one is there are two sentences dash the blackboard. This is easy.
On.
On the blackboard, right?
On.
Surface on. Yeah. Right. And now there is a moth dash the ceiling. There is a moth dash the ceiling.
On the ceiling.
On the ceiling, right? On the ceiling.
Even though here the moth will be below the ceiling technically, right? Because he cannot
Moth
get on top of that.
Below the ceiling.
No, I mean pictorially. We are saying
Ah.
on the ceiling because of the surface relationship it has with the ceiling.
Correct, correct. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's because of the surface relationship. That's right. Yeah, on the ceiling. That's true. That's the right answer. Okay. 32, there is a mouse dash the table.
On the table.
Same. On the table. Correct. That's right. Then the next one would be, were you dash Prof Henderson's lecture yesterday? This also I'm interested in knowing. Were you dash
In.
in, or are there other answers?
This is like being at the concert, right? Since it's an event of some sort.
Being at the concert. Yeah, this is an event of sort. Yes, correct. Were you, this is an event. Yes, lecture is an event. That's true. So were you dash Prof Henderson's lecture yesterday? So do you say in or at?
At.
At, correct. At, right? So this is like at the concert, like you mentioned. It's an event, so it's not a space that it occupies. Again, there's a very common error, right? People would say, were you in the lecture yesterday? This should be, were you at the lecture, right? That is how it has. Okay, next one. What can you say dash the picture on page 44? What can you see? On or in?
In the picture.
Huh?
In.
In the picture. What can you see
In the picture.
in the picture on page 44? Why do you say in and not on?
Because we're looking into the picture.
Yeah, we're looking in the insides of the picture, right? We're not, picture is of course on the page and we are looking in the picture to see what do you say, right? So we are talking about something that happens in the space that is, or the region that is occupied by the picture, right? So in the picture on page 40. Okay. What is he wearing dash his head? What is
On
he
his
wearing?
head.
Dash on his head, of course. Who is sitting dash that chair on the left?
On that.
Sitting in. Okay, on that chair, not in that chair.
In chair.
He's still on the surface, right?
I still on the
He hasn't
surface. You
he has
say
not
in that
sunk
chair,
into it.
correct. So is in that chair a bad expression? On that chair is not wrong. But my question is in that chair wrong? This is a little technical, right? So if you're sitting in a chair, which is say something like if I'm say my chair is a recliner, then I'm not sitting on the recliner. I'm sitting in that chair, right? Because I have enclosed space of the chair around me. But this is just a, something what we call as a uh, mechanical specification. It's based on that. So you can sit on the chair. You can also sit in the chair. Depends on the kind of chair you're sitting. Right? If it is something that is more, something that has more of an enclosed space like a recliner, then you say you sit in that chair, right? Wherein you say it has an armrest and it has a cozy surrounding space around it, then you can say in that chair. Otherwise, ordinarily it is on the chair. Okay, get it?
Although I think the irony will be that I can still only sit
Ah.
on the sofa despite for having all these features. I can still sit only
Sofa,
on it
sit
and
on
not
the
in it.
on the sofa. Yes, that's right. That's right. That I think is also because yeah, I understand what you're trying to say. Sofa, a lot of these traditional furniture that we have, like sofa, guys, just forgive me the noise for another 2 minutes. I'm not in the office, so you might hear a few um, background noises, but it's okay. We are almost at the end of the question. Just bear with me for another 2 minutes. So yeah, the point was that a lot of these furniture that we have these days, they've undergone a lot many mechanical changes over a period of time. So the way we see them and we understand them, they probably give you a different perception, right? And unfortunately, the grammar It changes, but the grammar doesn't change as dynamically and as rapidly as other things change. Right? There is always this kind of a rigidity to bringing about change in grammar. So that's one problem. Sofa traditionally, or even chair traditionally, was not supposed to be an enclosed space. But yeah, over the period of time, we did add features, which is why for us there's a, it almost uh, looks like a cognitively disabled fact. You're not able to. There's some dissonance for us in understanding that something like a chair or a sofa cannot also be an enclosed space, right? So, lot many of these things is because of that. So yeah, I understand that concern. Okay. Where are we? 37, right? Who is the girl? Who's the girl dash this picture?
Ma'am, in
In this picture, right? Where you don't say on this picture, in this picture, referring to something that
In
is
this
within,
picture.
yeah, within the given picture. So in this picture, whose is this sweater dash my bed? Whose is this sweater
On
on
my bed.
on my bed? Would you do it if you were dash my place?
In my place.
Yeah, in my place, right? In my place. Would you do it if you were in my place? You should not play football dash the street. On the street or in the street?
ma'am on the street.
On the street. Okay. Any other answers? You should not play football dash the street. In the street, on the street. On the street is right answer. Can we also say in the street? Yes, we can
It
say.
does sound like him.
We can say if you are trying to refer to the street itself, right? If my reference is that you should not play football in the street, as in that particular street. The reference is to the street itself, then you can use in the street. But if it is just a matter of location, that okay, someone shouldn't play it, whatever, whichever the street is, don't play it on the street, then you use on. But if it's a specific, if you're referring to the street itself, then no, not as a rule, but as a street itself, by the word street itself, then you can also say in the street. Being as in by being physically in the middle of the street. Don't play in the street. But if you're simply referring to it as a general, location or positioning or something, then you use it. So you use the word on instead of. Okay, both are right, but slight difference in right. Okay. All right. So we can go on. There could be another 40 or 50 questions on this, but the points remain the same. Okay. So in our net, they look very easy and very commonly used ones, very innocuous, very harmless. But in certain contexts, using them interchangeably can change the meaning entirely. And sometimes it's also grammatically wrong, like we discussed in certain cases, right? They are just plainly wrong. In some cases, interchangeable with a little bit of a change in the meaning, but in certain cases, they are plainly wrong grammatically to use them in the given context, right? So, a bit of a change is like this, a bit of nuances is advised while you learn these topics. Keep those in mind, bear in mind, otherwise they're very helpful, right? One of the major segments that help you build constant relationships in language. Okay. Keep looking at them in case you figure something which requires explanation or you're confused about. Please write to us through your discourse. I don't think you have a discussion forum, right? So you can write to that and get them clarified for us. Okay.
Do we
That's all
have a
with
couple of
prepositions.
minutes right now?
Yeah, you may go ahead. You can ask.
Can you scroll up to some of these questions? Could you scroll up a little? Right, we saw that one. No, uh, do you mean the one on the left? When we look at this one, if we change it up a little bit and we say instead of the left, we say the front, then we can no longer use on. Then we have to say, do you mean the one at the front, right?
You mean the one at the front? Yeah, that's right. But front is not a move forward, move front in the front. Front is not technically purely a direction. It's also position. left is it's a position, but it's also more importantly a direction. So that is a very subtle difference, but yes, that difference also counts sometimes. You're right. The moment you put front, the preposition changes. That's right. And that doesn't just randomly change, it also changes because of the connotations it has. One very clearly has a directionality to connote, the other one doesn't necessarily.
So the sense of direction guides us to use
Yes.
on in this case.
Yes, correct. That's right.
Could we scroll up a bit more? Right, this one. Looking at some of these within the first 10, I was tempted to use, the pictorial ideas to make sense of the correct preposition to use. Let us look at number 7. I was under the impression. So impression is what if I use a seal and stamp on a paper. So I am leaving an impression over there. So if we use that pictorial logic, then I can be under the impression, as in someone puts a seal. So in that sense, we can relate it there. Does that work?
I was under the impression. That's right. Maybe, yes. Maybe that's one way of looking at it. I've never thought about it that way, but yes, maybe that also counts. That kind of, but again, yeah, pictorial is again a part of what we call as the visual sense, right? So, which is why I think I use the word sensory, right? Some of the understanding, some of the use that we have in languages, they also are uh, they are also determined on the basis of your sensory understanding, right? Sensory understanding means something that for which you have to use your senses, your 5 senses. So yes, what you're saying, pictorial, is very much connected to that sensory. It's a visual sense that you're using in that sense. True, could be.
To some sense, to some end, that's what we used in number 10 as well, when we imagined the coastline as a line
Correct.
and then we went along
That's
it
right.
parallelly.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sure. All right. Others, any questions? Or I think, well, times 5:15, 5:13. I think it's good enough time to discuss and end. Yeah. So just continue looking at them, and in case you come across anything that's specifically difficult for you, please let us know in writing through your discussion forums. Thank you so much. I think I do not know if we meet again before your quiz. We didn't have enough time to go through articles and all of that, which anyway I'd be taking up unfortunately only after the quiz. But meanwhile, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to write to us. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you again next week.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. See you. Thank you so much.